Alright, hey everybody out there in YouTube, it's Mr. 707 Legend here. Ow, fuck, hit my finger on the fucking desk. I wanted to do sort of a video response to Ramboraph4life. He did the video about some underrated films in his collection, and, you know, I thought, you know, he asked for some responses, so I thought, why not do a video. I'm probably not gonna upload it right away. Probably gonna be the day. It's Thursday right now. Probably tomorrow, because unfortunately right now my internet is acting up. It's really bad weather over here right now. I'm assuming that's what's causing it. It's the DSL connection on my modem is red, so it's like blinking green and then turns red. So it's not working right. So I won't be able to upload it right away. But better late than never, right? As long as I get the video up. And I got quite a few movies here. It's not every single film in my collection that I think is underrated, but it's a good chunk. And yeah, let me get started here. I gotta talk about this one. Warrior, of course. I've mentioned it many times before. Even though this isn't hated. It's just one of those movies that I feel, because it tanked, it never really went anywhere. It's got a pretty high score on IMDb. I believe it has an 8.5, and critically it did really well, but it was sort of a flop at the box office. It cost $25 million, and it only made 23, which is too bad, because I really like the film. It's a really solid flick. You know, I've recommended it several times before, so I took the opportunity to pimp it out one more time. So yeah, that's Warrior. Definitely check that one out. And next up, To Live and Die in L.A., starring William L. Peterson, directed by William Friedkin. Very fun 80s crime thriller. Not really an action movie, more of a thriller. You got Willem Dafoe playing a really solid bad guy. And William L. Peterson is really solid in this. This is one of the movies he did back in the day. He was also in this movie called Manhunter, which I liked. But a very solid film. It's got a pretty cool soundtrack. The music was done by the band Wang Chung. And I really like the opening score. When the movie first opens, you know, with all these shots of Los Angeles, and get this really cool sort of synthesizer music in the opening. And just a really entertaining film. I really liked William L. Peterson in this. It's got one really awesome car chase sequence that sort of involves William Peterson outrunning all these different people, and then he has to go into a one-way area where there's traffic coming this way, so he's got to dodge the cars and stuff on the road. One thing though is, if people do check this movie out, the ending might bother some people. I'm not going to give away what it is, but I thought about it for a while. I was fine with the ending. You know, I don't want to give it away because I don't want to spoil this for people, because it's got a pretty, let's just say, a pretty surprising ending. But I still like the movie, and the alternate ending, which I have seen here on YouTube, I didn't think was any better. So next up, I want to talk about Highlander 2 and 3. Now, Highlander is kind of underrated, but it's got its audience. It's definitely more of a cult film. A lot more people know about it, and a lot of people like it. In fact, most people who like that movie like to pretend like these movies never happened. In particular, Highlander 2, especially the theatrical cut, the quickening. This is the 2-disc special edition, which is essentially, it's the Renegade cut of the film, but it's got new special effects. For instance, this finally has the blue planetary shield, the way it was intended to be, and it has, in the flashback sequence, instead of a spaceship where you see them walking in both the theatrical and the Renegade version, in this, it's not a spaceship, it's a temple. And this is, I can see why people don't like the Highlander sequels. I mean, this movie's just really ridiculous. Any version of the film is really ridiculous, and it does fail as a sequel. Even though they're not aliens, they got rid of all the stuff about Zeist. I still like the movie. Because, okay, the thing about them being from a distant past, with all this advanced technology, still doesn't really make much sense, because there really isn't any mention of that in the original film. But it's still entertaining. Michael Ironside does a solid job as the villain. Sean Connery's not in it a whole lot, and how he comes back is kind of ridiculous. And Christopher Lambert does a good job. And even Christopher Lambert, he didn't even want to come back. The only reason he came back was because they got Sean Connery to come back, and Sean Connery didn't want to come back, so they paid him a ton of money for, I think it was 9 days of shooting. And he's really not in the movie that much. But when he's there, he does a good job as well. And it's still a really entertaining movie, despite all the stupid shit. It's still an entertaining film. I still have fun with Highlander 2, despite the fact that it fails as a sequel. It's got a really great end credit song, "One Dream" by Lou Gramm. I like that song. And if anyone out there is like me and is a fan of the film, definitely pick up this 2-disc DVD. Because it's got a really solid behind-the-scenes documentary called "Seduced by Argentina," which is where they filmed the movie. And they got Christopher Lambert, they got Russell Mulcahy, they got the screenwriter, they got the 2 producers who produced this and the original film to talk about the movie. And it's a really well done documentary. They spend a little too much time talking about Argentina and how great it was. That part of the documentary I didn't really care about. But when they talk about the movie, it was really interesting. Even the screenwriter said that he thought the whole idea about them being aliens was stupid, but that they were sort of stuck. It's like, well, what can we do with the way the first movie ended? But yeah, Highlander 2, I still like it. It's ridiculous. Yes, it fails as a sequel, but I like it. It's entertaining. And then Highlander 3, which is essentially, it's a retcon. It basically pretends like Highlander 2 never happened, and it's a direct sequel to the first film. And I do like it a little bit more than Highlander 2 because this feels more like a Highlander movie. Mainly because it's essentially just a remake of the first movie. It's Connor McLeod fighting an evil immortal, because they're the last two, because, Mario Van Peebles, who plays Kane, he gets trapped inside a cave centuries ago, so he wasn't there to fight during the gathering, but now he's around, and now he's gonna, take on McLeod, which, again, doesn't make any sense, because after McLeod killed the Kurgan in the first film, he had the prize. He even said that he had that power that was given to him in the prize. So it doesn't really make much sense. But it's still a fun movie. Yeah, it has that main flaw. It's just a remake of the first film. But Mario Van Peebles, I think, does a good job. Yes, he's essentially just a ripoff of the Kurgan, but he does a good job as the villain. It's a little bit more over the top, but it worked. And then I like the final battle between them at the end. I think it's a better final battle than the final battle with Michael Ironside from Highlander 2, because they both use katanas, so it's a much faster, more fluid sword fight. Only problem is, though, I kind of wish that Kane had used the power of illusion that he got when he killed Mako's character at the beginning of the film. He doesn't really use it that much. He uses it like once, and that's about it. I thought that he would use it more. Like, I thought that he would split himself in two or something, or that he would disappear and reappear in other areas. He doesn't really use it. He uses it one time, and that's even before the sword fight happens. So that was kind of disappointing. But nonetheless, it's a fun movie. I like Highlander, the Final Dimension. Are they as good as the first one? No. But they're still entertaining movies, and I know a lot of people don't like them, but I do. I think they're entertaining. And how about some more Christopher Lambert movies? Resurrection, which is sort of a serial killer mystery thriller. Christopher Lambert plays a guy who's a cop. He's trying to find this killer who's killing people, and using their body parts to recreate the body of Jesus Christ. And it was also directed by Russell Mulcahy, who directed Highlander 1 and 2. It's a really solid serial killer film. And I was really surprised, too, by Christopher Lambert's performance. I thought he did a really good job in this. It's rated R, so it's got some really solid gore effects, like the actual body thing that the killer's making is all practical, and it looks pretty gross. But it's a solid serial killer thriller, and yeah, people have called it a Seven ripoff, and I guess in a way it kind of is. But even Christopher Lambert's partner in this movie, I forgot the actor's name, but the guy who plays his partner, I don't know if you can see him, he's in that top picture. Oh no, that's Christopher Lambert. The middle picture, I mean, standing behind him, you probably can't see it. That guy was in Seven. He's the guy that the killer forced to wear that strap-on thing with the knife and made him fuck the hooker with it. He's that guy, and he's in this as Christopher Lambert's partner, which is I thought was kind of weird. But despite that fact, I think this is its own movie. It doesn't have that same sort of visual look of Seven, but it's still a really solid movie. It's definitely one of the better later day Russell Mulcahy films, which unfortunately I think his career was kind of hampered by Highlander 2. But yeah, it's a solid thriller. I actually really liked it. I might upload this someday down the road. And then Gunmen, also with Christopher Lambert and Mara Van Peebles. This time they're not trying to kill each other. This time they actually work together. This is a very fun buddy action flick. There isn't a whole lot of action. It's mainly just comedy. But I like these two guys. I like some of the dialogue. You got Dennis Leary here, who plays the main villain, and he does a great job. He's having a lot of fun with the villain role. And just a really entertaining, fast-paced film with a lot of solid dialogue. Very funny movie. But like I said, I would have liked a little bit more action, maybe a couple more shootouts or a chase or something. But you get a couple nice explosions here and there and stuff like that. But nonetheless, a very entertaining flick. And I actually have this up on Dram 707 on my other channel. That's up there on parts. Just go there and search for it. You'll find it. It's a fun flick. Okay, let's move to this pile. Okay, up next, Bad Influence. Now, Bad Influence is a very solid thriller. Basically, James Spader plays sort of this uptight, wimpy. I think he's a stock salesman guy. He works with stocks and stuff like that, and he's rich. He's successful. He's got predominantly he's doing all right, but the problem is he's a wuss. He takes shit all the time. He takes shit and just kind of does nothing about it. And then one night at a bar, he gets into a confrontation that he can't sort of handle, and sort of Rob Lowe steps in there and helps him out. And him and Rob Lowe become sort of friends, and Rob Lowe is this guy who basically doesn't take any shit. He does whatever the fuck he wants to do, and he sort of starts to tease James Spader about, he gets him to do stuff like that. They start doing drugs. They end up at one night robbing a burger stand. And one night sort of things go too far, and one of James Spader's co-workers who's been giving him shit ends up getting beat up, and Rob Lowe says that James Spader did it, and James Spader is like, you know what, you're taking things too far, I don't want anything to do with you. But of course, Rob Lowe is crazy, so he decides to fuck up James Spader's life. He kills this woman in James Spader's apartment, leaves the body there with the murder weapon. So James Spader's got to hide the body, and he's got to get evidence against Rob Lowe to prove he didn't do it, because otherwise he'll never be at peace or whatever, something like this. I think it's because he needs evidence against him, basically, just to clear his name, just in case anything comes back to him. And it's a pretty solid thriller. Not a lot of people talk about this movie, and I was pretty surprised the first time I saw it. I saw it on TV a long time ago. I bought the DVD. I saw it again. It's actually a really solid thriller. I think Rob Lowe, he does a decent job playing not really a psychopath, more like a guy who sort of lives his life without any consequences. He's not really afraid of anything, including killing. But certainly he's not a good person. But he seems kind of cool. Like, you would want to hang out with this guy because he could probably get you laid. They both do a good job, James Spader and Rob Lowe. It's a pretty decent thriller. The ending is kind of anticlimactic. It's kind of ho-hum. But everything does work out in the end, I guess. But still a pretty solid thriller. I would definitely check this one out. I might upload this one too later. That is if MGM or whoever the hell owns MGM these days doesn't care. But this is out of print anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. And next up is actually a documentary, Beyond the Mat, which is basically it's sort of an inside look into the world of professional wrestling. It follows Mick Foley, it follows Terry Funk, it follows Jake the Snake Roberts. It also takes a look at sort of the development deals that WWE works to get new stars into the company. It's a really good documentary. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, especially from sort of the Attitude Era, which is when this was filmed, sort of the late 90s, I think it's definitely worth a watch, even if you're not a wrestling fan. I think it might still be interesting to you to sort of see this inside look into behind the scenes and how it affects, the wrestlers and stuff like that. And it is kind of a negative view on wrestling, but the director himself even says in the opening, narration, that he himself is a fan of pro wrestling. So it's never trying to look down on wrestling as this horrible thing. You can definitely tell the guy has a respect and a love for pro wrestling, and it's a really good documentary. It's kind of forgotten now. Not a lot of people know about it, but I really enjoy the film. If anyone out there watches this and likes it, there's another documentary about wrestling that's really good. It's called Hitman Hart: Wrestling the Shadows, which follows Bret the Hitman Hart up until the Montreal Screwjob. That one's really good too. I actually want to get that one on DVD if I can find it. And it's a really good documentary. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, or if you're not a fan of pro wrestling, I think you might enjoy this flick. And next up is a Van Damme movie. It's one of his later ones. It's not one of his older ones. One of his later direct-to-video ones. I think it's from 2000. Yeah, 2000, I think. The Order. And the reason I think this one is underrated is because this was the last time that we got to see Van Damme be Van Damme. And what I mean by that, he has energy, he's having fun, he smiles, and he does the aerial kicks. And this was the last time we really got to see that. I think shortly after this, he started making much darker films. He can't do the aerial kicks anymore because I think he has a hip injury, which causes pain. So that's why he can't do those kicks anymore. So this was the last time we got to see him do that. And it's just a really fun movie. There's a lot of action, a lot of fight scenes. It was directed by Sheldon Lettich, who I think directed Double Impact, also Van Damme. And very well done fight sequences. The camera stands still. There's no quick editing, none of that stuff. And, like I said, just the last time we ever got to see Van Damme be Van Damme. At least the Van Damme from back in the day. This was the last time he acted like that, which is too bad. I wish that he would go back and do it like this. I mean, even if he can't do the aerial kicks, at least, at least do something like that, but it's too bad. That's not what we got now. And next up, and this one I think is very underrated, criminally underrated, definitely needs a bigger audience, and that is A History of Violence with Viggo Mortensen. Probably be my favorite Viggo Mortensen movie. I'm not really a fan of Lord of the Rings, so there's really not much else to compare it to. But really good thriller, and also a really good drama. I mean, great performances. Viggo Mortensen is great. Maria Bello, who plays his wife, she's really good. Ed Harris, he's really good in this as one of the villains. He's got like a scar on his face, and he's got like a messed up eye. Very intimidating in the film, and it was directed by David Cronenberg. And I would say this is my second favorite Cronenberg movie after The Fly, but to be honest, I've only seen that and this. I haven't seen that many of his other movies. But just a really good thriller. The performances are really good. Once you find out what's actually going on, it's really not much of a surprise. You kind of already know going into it. It's got a really... I'm slurring my words, guys. I'm sorry. It's really violent too. Like, that's one thing about David Cronenberg's movies. I don't think he's ever directed anything besides R-rated films. Like, he's only done R-rated movies, and the violence in this is really good. Like, there's one scene where Viggo Mortensen shoots a guy in the back of his head, and you see, like, it came out of his face, the bullet, and his face is, like, just shredded apart by the bullet. When Ed Harris gets killed, he gets killed with a double-barrel shotgun. He gets his big bloody blood splatter when he gets shot. Really solid movie. I think that this film has kind of been forgotten. Not that many people talk about it anymore, but I really like it. And I really enjoyed it when I first saw this movie. I bought it because of all the good things I heard about it, all the good critical acclaim it got. And I ended up really liking the film. So check out A History of Violence. And sorry about me slurring my words there. I'm going to get a drink. It's better. Alright, next up, True Romance. Written by Quentin Tarantino and directed by Tony Scott. Very fun movie. It's kind of a weird movie, some of the stuff that's in here. It's a really diverse cast. I mean, you got Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, playing a very weird character, Brad Pitt, who plays a stoner, and Christopher Walken plays a gangster who's only in about one scene, but it's a great scene. Basically, Christian Slater, he plays a comic book geek, and Patricia Arquette plays a hooker. They sort of fall in love, and they inadvertently end up with coke that belongs to the mob. So they go to California trying to sell it, but now the mob's after them. And just a lot of great dialogue. This is back when Quentin Tarantino could write really good dialogue, and it's got the Tony Scott energy in the direction. And just a really solid movie. I'd never seen the film before, but I heard a lot of good things about it, so I picked up the DVD, and it's actually really good. It's got it's got some really awesome moments, like one scene where James Gandolfini plays one of the gangsters trying to get the coke back, and he corners Patricia Arquette and starts beating the shit out of her. Like, her face is all bloodied up and stuff. But I like the fact that she fights back. She gets a fucking corkscrew, sticks it into James Gandolfini's foot. The fight sort of escalates into the bathroom, so she grabs the top part of the toilet, hits him with it, and then she gets his shotgun, and she just fucking unloads. She's like, and these big bloody squid. It's a very violent movie. And it all ends with a big fucking shootout inside this hotel room. You know, just on different sides, just shooting each other. And in the end, they end up with some money. You know, it was a nice ending. And Brad Pitt is in here too, playing a stoner. I thought that was kind of funny. He smokes weed out of one of those little bears that they fill up with honey. He smokes weed out of one of those. And Gary Oldman, who plays Patricia Arquette's pimp, It's just a really weird character. He's got like fucking dreadlocks. He's got a kind of a, I think he's got, yeah, a scarred up face. I don't know if you can see him right there. Val Kilmer plays Elvis. He's not real. He's like inside Christian Slater's head. He sees Elvis every once in a while. It's like his conscience that tells him, like, gives him advice on what he should do. But just a really fun movie. I actually really liked it. The dialogue was really good. It moves at a really fast pace. Tony Scott's direction was great. Yeah, it's a really good movie. I was really surprised when I first saw this. Check it out, True Romance. And I'm sure that film also has its audience. I just feel it's kind of underrated. And next up, a couple of Olivier Gruner films. Like, I wanted to mention this, Nemesis. I know he, Ramboraph4life, I know he's a fan of this film, and I know he didn't mention it, so I figured, what the hell, I'll mention it. Nemesis. Olivier Gruner's best movie, one of Albert Pion's best films, and there aren't a lot of them from him. Not a whole lot of martial arts from Gruner, but you get some really solid shootout sequences, you get some really good explosions, some decent effects for the time. Just a really fun sci-fi action cyberpunk flick. And yeah, it's a really solid film from back in the day. And then another Olivier Gruner flick that also is science fiction. Oh, fuck me. I dropped the fucking DVD. Fucking dropped the DVD. Slurring my words, guys. I'm sorry. Automatic. Very fun movie. I would say it's probably my second favorite of his. I forgot what this movie was about. Oh, yep. He plays a brain fart. He plays a robot who accidentally kills somebody, but these robots aren't supposed to kill people, and so now he's got to protect this girl because now the owner of the corporation, played by John Glover, hires these mercenaries to basically take these two out. And it's basically just an action movie in one area. Again, not a whole lot of martial arts, but some really solid effects, some solid explosions, some cool shootouts. Very fun, entertaining film. And I actually got this one uploaded up on my other channel, Dram707, in parts, if you guys want to check it out. And Nemesis is up on YouTube. A bunch of other people have already uploaded the film, if you guys want to check that one out. And this one, Mercenary, which this one I think is one of Olivier Gruner's most underrated films, and this was a direct-to-HBO movie. And it co-stars John Ritter. John Ritter plays a guy whose wife is killed by this terrorist, played by Martin Cove, and he wants to hire Olivier Gruner's team to go after him. And at first he's hesitant, but something happens and they need help. So John Ritter offers to help Olivier Gruner. Well, it's not him, it's his friend who needs help. On the condition that they go after this terrorist and John Ritter tags along. And he's like, okay, fine. And just a really solid action film. For a made-to-HBO movie, it's really fun. It's got some really solid action sequences. When we're first introduced to Olivier Gruner, it's fucking badass. Because he gets into this bar fight and he's got like this pen that's not a pen. It's got a knife in it, so he pulls out the knife, sticks a dude in the eyeball with it, and then he slices another guy's throat with a credit card that has a blade in it. Just goes, boom, slices the guy's throat, gets into this awesome bar fight, fucks all these guys up. Very awesome introduction to Olivier Gruner. You get some cool explosions towards the middle, some solid shootouts. I was surprised. This is actually a really fun flick, and this is up on Dram707 also, in parts, if you guys want to check it out. And I recommend this one. This is one of his, definitely one of Gruner's most underrated films, and it's one of his best. And sadly, he hasn't made that many great movies. Next up, Daybreakers. Now, this movie, I'm sure, also kind of has its audience. I feel it's underrated because when it first came out, it flopped hard. And it sucks because this is actually a good movie with vampires in it. Unlike all that Twilight shit, which makes hundreds of millions of dollars, but yet when this movie came out, it tanks. And I wanted to see this movie in the theater, but it wasn't playing here, so I couldn't see it. Because this movie theater sucks sometimes. And it's a really solid film. The cast is good. Ethan Hawke, Willem Dafoe, they're great in the movie. It's got some great practical creature effects, some really solid gore effects. It's actually a smart movie with vampires. It's not some, teen girl love story bullshit, and it's too bad, really, that this flops, but crap like Twilight makes a ton of money, and it kind of pisses me off a little bit. But Daybreakers is a very fun, very underrated sci-fi horror flick, and I would love to have seen a sequel, and the ending sets up for a sequel, but unfortunately, because the movie flopped, I don't think that's going to happen, which is too bad. And next up, Under the Gun. This is a fun, direct-to-video martial arts flick starring Richard Norton, who's also a very underrated martial artist. He's Australian. He's made a lot of movies in Hong Kong. Some movies, I think he also made some movies in Italy for Italian exploitation directors. But in this movie, I really liked him. And he plays this guy who owns a nightclub, I should say, not a bar. And he's trying to sell it. He's going to steal this money from a Chinese drug lord that he's been fronting their operations for. So he's going to steal their money, and he's going to get his girl, and they're going to leave to Mexico. But all this shit happens in this one night that sort of complicates things. So he's got to karate chop a bunch of people. Just a really fun movie. It's got some funny scenes with Richard Norton. You got one scene where this guy's fuck my nose. This guy's hassling him, and Richard Norton's in the bathroom washing his hands, and this guy comes in giving him shit, and Richard Norton says like, "All right, I'll tell you what, pal. If I make this shot," because he's got the paper towel in his hand, he's gonna toss into the trash can. "If I make this shot, I'll come quietly. But if I don't, I'm gonna do what I do best, and that's kick the ever-living shit out of you." He just drops it. Well, looks like I missed. And then the next shot is outside of the bathroom door, and Richard Norton goes fucking flying through it. But he does eventually kick that guy's ass. Just a lot of solid martial arts sequences throughout the whole movie. It all ends with a big shootout inside of the nightclub. Richard Norton is great. He does a really good job. And yeah, just a very fun, underrated martial arts flick. And I have this up on this channel, Mr. 707 Legend. If you guys want to check it out, it's up in one part. And next up, The Machinist with Christian Bale. Very good thriller. When I first saw this, I was really surprised by it. Christian Bale's performance is the main reason I really like it. This I feel is his best performance. I do think it's a better performance than in the Batman movies or in Terminator Salvation. This is more like his type of role, and he does a really great job. I mean, the physical transformation alone was really impressive, because he dropped a ton of weight, and he's essentially just like a walking skeleton. And, Christian Bale, he plays a guy, he's got insomnia, he hasn't slept in a year, he works at a machine shop, and then kind of weird things start to happen. He finds like a post-it note on his refrigerator with a hangman on it. People sort of that he's known sort of disappearing, and he meets this one guy who claims to work at the same machine shop that he does, but people say he doesn't exist, he doesn't know what's going on. It's a psychological thriller. It is kind of a slower paced film. It is pretty long. It's about 2 hours, but I still enjoyed the film despite that. I think it's got a really solid twist ending that I didn't see coming, and I don't think anybody else will see it coming, but I think it works really well. it isn't a complete mindfuck of a movie. Like, he doesn't start seeing weird, crazy shit, but it's still a pretty solid psychological thriller. I still really like the movie. For Christian Bale's performance alone, it's really worth watching. Like I said, it's got a really solid twist ending that I don't think anybody will see coming. Next up, 2 Jeff Wincott flicks, Mission of Justice and Martial Outlaw. Now, Jeff Wincott is, I think, a very underrated martial artist. He's made a handful of pretty solid martial arts action flicks back in the 90s. And these two are, I think, his best films. My favorite is Mission of Justice. And Mission of Justice, it's just a B-movie. It's a martial arts flick, but I love B-movie martial arts flicks. Jeff Wincott really gets to show off his skills in these 2 movies. Basically, the standout fight sequences that I think make the films for Mission of Justice would be this. I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes long. It's this fight sequence where he has to fight 20 guys with sticks. It's called the gauntlet scene, and they're all in rows on one end of this mat, and he's got to fight 20 of them. He's got to get to the very end. So sort of like a rite of passage that he has to do to become a member of this organization called the Peacekeepers. And he goes in with these sticks, and he just fucking annihilates everyone. He's fucking them up, boom, 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 you know. And at the end of the fight, he does a double drop kick, jumps up, boom, kicks 2 guys in the face. It's got a pretty decent villain played by Brigitte Nielsen. Matthias Hughes is in this. He plays her brother, and he has a fight with Jeff Wincott in the end, which is pretty solid. And Jeff Wincott ends up kicking Matthias Hughes out of a window. I mean, there's not much else to it but the fight scenes, but Jeff Wincott does a really good job. If you're a fan of martial arts flicks, definitely check this one out. And this is up on my channel right now if you guys want to see it in one part. And Martial Outlaw also has some really solid fight sequences, and the best one is inside of this gym called it's this thing where he has to fight a bunch of different bad guys in this gym, and really solid fight choreography. I mean, he does fight them on one at a time, but that happens a lot in movies. And he ends up getting like these fucking metal dumbbells and starts fucking these guys up with them. He's like, boom, boom, with the dumbbells. One thing I will say, though, about Martial Outlaw, the sound effects are a little cheesy. They sound kind of cartoonish at times. But the fight choreography is really solid. And the same guy did the fight choreography for this and Mission of Justice. This guy named Jeff Pruitt. And he should have been doing the fight choreography for a lot more movies, because his fight choreography is very fast, very fluid, you know, and it looks really good on camera. So yeah, Mission of Justice and Mission of Justice and Martial Outlaw. This is actually up on Dram 707 in one part. If you guys want to check it out, which I recommend. Almost done here, guys. I got one more stack. Hard Justice. Now, Hard Justice is probably David Bradley's best movie. It is better than American Ninja 3, I would say. It's better than American Samurai. And it's just a really fun action movie. Now, it is a direct-to-video film from back in the day, and it's got some really good action sequences. The whole middle of the film is essentially just a rip-off, a death warrant, only instead of killing prisoners to steal their organs and sell them on the black market, it's guns. They're smuggling guns and hiding them in the prison. And it's got a really good opening sequence. It has this big shootout inside of a warehouse. And you get really solid moments, like David Bradley, he gets on a conveyor belt with a shotgun, so he's sliding on the conveyor belt and he's got a shotgun and he's just unloading, you know. And there's this one scene where there's a box of grenades that catches fire, so the grenades are blowing up, and he's on top of this car, so this whole row of cars starts blowing up as the grenades fall underneath them. So he goes from one car to another, and it's like the cars flip over. Really big, elaborate action sequence. And in the middle, it's mainly fight scenes inside of the prison. But then at the end, you get more shootouts inside of the prison, and then you get this really awesome moment when the bad guy, this guy, I think his name is Yuji Okamoto. He's got David Bradley's, I guess, girlfriend, and makes him drop his gun. But David Bradley's girlfriend elbows the guy, Yuji Okamoto, and he's got a grenade in his hand. He's about to throw it, but David Bradley drops to the ground, grabs the gun, shoots the grenade before he can throw it, and he blows up. And you get this big explosion. Just a really awesome movie. It's definitely David Bradley's best film, I would say. Hard Justice. It's a lot of fun. This is up on Joram 707 in 7 parts, if you guys want to check it out. And it's a lot of fun. I actually really like the movie. And next up, The Mask of Zorro. I feel it's underrated. I grew up with this movie. When I was a kid, I was on a huge Zorro kick. I used to watch the old black and white Zorro TV show on Disney. They would show it at midnight on Disney Channel, and I would stay up on Friday nights to watch it. And one day when I was at the movies, during the previews, they showed a preview for The Mask of Zorro. It was that one where he's in silhouette. He walks up to the screen and he slices a Z into the screen, and you show footage from the movie. I really got pumped to see this movie. So I told my mom I wanted to see this movie when it came out. I saw it in the theater. I had a lot of fun with it. I had it on VHS, and I watched it all the time. Finally got the DVD, and I would say it has its problems, especially in the third act. It's kind of slow, and it takes him a while to become Zorro. But overall, I really like the film, and nostalgia is a big part of that, because I did watch this movie a lot when I was a kid. And I would call it my favorite Antonio Banderas flick. Even though if you think about it, Desperado is probably a better movie. But nonetheless, I really do like this movie. I would say it is my favorite Antonio Banderas flick, and I've never bothered with The Legend of Zorro. That movie just looks like crap to me. Next up, the best of the best films. Mainly just part 1, 2, and then 3. Because part 4, I don't think is underrated. I think part 4 just sucks. And, the first film, I'm sure has an audience. I'm sure this is the one that people mainly know and like. But part 2, I think, got a lot of crap when it originally was released. And I know a lot of people didn't really like it. It definitely has a B-movie feel to it. But like I said, I love B-movie martial arts flicks. And this is definitely this is definitely one of the best that I've seen. I really like the movie. It's a lot of fun. You get a great villain. Philip Ree is awesome in the movie, as well as Eric Roberts, and he took over for part 3, which is the last good one in the series, because part 4 sucks. And part 4 is a lot of fun. This one was the first one to go direct to video, but it still feels kind of like a theatrical film, even though it wasn't. I hope one day Philip Ree comes back. It's too bad that the Best 4 was his last movie. Maybe someday he'll make a comeback. Team up with Isaac Florentine. That guy knows how to film a fight scene. I really like the Best of the Best films, and Best of the Best 2 and 3 in particular, I feel, are very underrated. And lastly, I got a couple of Gary Daniels flicks. White Tiger, very solid martial arts action flick. Not a whole lot of martial arts. The fight scenes he's in are actually pretty quick and short, but they're well done. And you get some solid shootouts, some solid explosions, and you got Kari Hiroyuki Takawa right there, who plays the villain, and you got Julie Nixon, who plays sort of Gary Daniels' love interest. And Julia Nixon, I'm sorry, she takes her top off, so you get to see her titties, which is nice. But that's a solid film. Unfortunately, the final battle between Kerry Takawa and Gary Daniels kind of sucks, unfortunately. But the movie's pretty solid. I enjoyed it. I'm going to re-upload that one day. Cold Harvest, a fun sci-fi western martial arts movie. It was directed by Isaac Florentine, who directed the Undisputed films, Undisputed 2 and 3, Ninja with Scott Adkins, and, you know, the fight scenes are really well shot, really well done. Gary Daniels does a great job in the film. You know, like I said, it's kind of a weird movie. It's a hybrid of martial arts movie, sci-fi post-apocalyptic film, and it's a western. And the music in the background is kind of really western, but really fun movie. Really solid martial arts sequences. It is a little cheesy, like I said, because of all the different genres that it blends together, but it works really well, I think, and I had fun. Despite the cheesiness, it's a fun movie. Next up is Blood Moon, which is a film kind of like Cold Harvest. Blood Moon is a little cheesy, but it showcases Gary Daniels' martial arts skills really well. And this was made by Seasonal Film Corporation, which is the same company that did the No Retreat, No Surrender films, King of the Kickboxers. So the fight sequences are very Hong Kong style. And here he's teamed up with Chuck Jeffries, who's he's a martial artist, and he's black. And the reason I mention that is because this is kind of like a buddy cop movie also. And they have a pretty solid back and forth with each other, which I liked. And Chuck Jeffries, he's a really good martial artist in here too, and he does some really good fight sequences as well. But like I said, it's really cheesy. If you've seen the No Retreat, No Surrender films, even King of the Kickboxers, you kind of know what you're getting into with this. And the villain in this, who's this killer, he's really over the top and just a really shitty actor. But he can fight, so that means you get a great final battle between him and Gary Daniels. And this one's up on Shazam 707 as well as Cold Harvest in parts, if you guys want to check those out. Next up, and then 3 Gary Daniels clips that he did for PM Entertainment. And these are 3 of his best films. And, you know, Riot, which is probably my favorite Gary Daniels flick. Probably PM Entertainment's best movie, I would say, out of all the ones I've seen. Rage. Don't like it as much as Riot, but it's still a decent flick. It's a decent movie. It's got a really awesome car chase, a pretty awesome shootout, and just kind of a weak ending, I thought. But Gary Daniels does a good job. Recoil, which is it's a revenge movie. So Gary Daniels' family gets killed by the mob, so he goes and he fucks them up. Yeah, so these 3 movies, you know, they're 3 of PM Entertainment's best films. They're 3 of Gary Daniels' best films. I kind of wish he made more movies for PM Entertainment. And, you know, if you've seen PM Entertainment films, they got, you know, a lot of explosions, a lot of, you know, their car chase scenes are really over the top with cars flipping over, you know, on crowded highways. That's one thing about PM Entertainment. Their car chases were never on empty streets. They always had them on crowded highways so they could set up a lot of carnage. Yeah, that's about it. So those are some movies in my collection that I felt were really underrated. Oh, actually, no, hold on, I'm not done. No, I forgot about this movie right here, Gladiator. I gotta talk about this one because this movie's really underrated. It's a really good sort of a underground boxing / kind of a coming of age film. James Marshall, and this was his first leading role, plays this kid who moves into the inner city because his dad lost a lot of money. And he sort of becomes involved in underground boxing to sort of help out his dad. And he becomes friends with Cuba Gooding Jr. And it's sort of like I said, a coming of age film. It's an underground boxing flick. It's got a really solid cast. You got Brian Dennehy as sort of the main bad guy. He's the guy that runs this underground boxing organization, and you got Robert Loggia, who's like his right-hand man. Really solid in-ring boxing scenes. It's got a great soundtrack, you know. And the best way to describe it, I mean, this critic right here, who has this quote here, who says, "A knockout coming-of-age film about the power of friendship and the fight to survive." I would say that pretty much describes the movie. Very fun, very underrated movie. I thought James Marshall did a good job. It's kind of more of a quiet performance. He plays sort of a quiet loner type character. Cuba Gooding Jr. is good. Brian Dennehy is good as the villain of the film. A really solid movie. I actually really enjoy this film. And I think it's really underrated. I think more people should definitely check this one out. And then lastly, I want to talk about not really a movie, but a TV show. Reaper. And this is seasons 1 and 2, which is the complete series that I actually got at Walmart for $20. And it's a really solid show. It's, you know, you got, I've mentioned the show before. You got Taylor Labine there. You got the main guy. I forgot his name. Brett Harrison. Right? He plays sort of like this slacker type guy. Doesn't really have any direction in life. He's just working a job at like a Home Depot style store, and he's forced to become the Devil's bounty hunter, played by Ray Wise. And Ray Wise does a great job as the Devil, and he has to basically capture escaped souls and send them back to hell, because his parents sold his soul to the Devil. They didn't mean to do it. They just they were desperate. They made a deal with the Devil, and they said, okay, we won't have kids. So the dad had a vasectomy. Only problem was the doctor that performed that operation also made a deal with the Devil and didn't give the dad a vasectomy, so the mom ended up pregnant. And that's how the whole situation happened in the end. But just a really fun, entertaining show. I like the characters. Taylor Bean is funny. He's very sarcastic. Brett Harrison, I thought, did a solid job as the lead guy. It's funny. It's got some decent special effects. Ray Wise is great as the Devil, and it's too bad the show only lasted 2 seasons. I wish it had gone on a little bit longer, but it has sort of an audience. I know there's some people out there who like the show, but unfortunately, it just didn't make much of an impact on the ratings. This was on the CW, so unfortunately, you know, it just didn't last after past season 2, which is too bad. I mean, they canceled this, but fucking Gossip Girl's still on. Come on. But that's just not my type of show. You know, this is more my type of show. But it's a solid show, Reaper. I would recommend checking the show out. So yeah, that's it. Now I'm done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little video of talking about some underrated films in my collection. Yeah, so yeah, thanks for watching, and I do have some stuff coming up for upload. I'm probably going to be re-uploading the Ring of Fire films. I've got those already made, ready to go, but they won't be uploaded today because my internet's not working. So this video will probably be uploaded tomorrow because I'm going to go to my friend's house tomorrow and just upload the video there at his house. So yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, see you guys later. Bye.